Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video. Today we're here with part 31 of our F1 2021 MyTeam Career mode here for the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. Last time out we were in the Netherlands where Max Verstappen won the Grand Prix ahead of myself and Sainz, where we got our first double podium for the team. You can see here in the driver's standings, Sainz currently sits third and we sit in fifth. Norris is actually leading the way by 25 points, so Norris doing very well. We're second in the constructors as well, and you can see very spread out in terms of race wins across the field at the moment. So good to see a very competitive field. And to see that we've got such an interesting season so far, and definitely some more cars out there that can win. Now for this episode, Ferrari have a brand new livery heading into their home Grand Prix at Monza. They've got some new sponsorship and sort of reinvigorated themselves to hopefully push on to chase after some more race wins. Neither of them obviously getting a race win so far this season, so they'll be hoping to impress in front of their home crowd. The Tifosi obviously very enthusiastic about the sport and about the team. Now having a look at the standings in terms of performance, technically we are in front there if you look at the left hand side, but ourselves and Mercedes are pretty much dead on even, and Red Bull and McLaren are almost equal with each other. They're just a bit behind, but that is all. We're going to be moving on to the race.
With the Grand Prix nearly upon us, Anthony Davidson is by my side once again to offer his perspective. Let's talk about Benjamin. They're in for a tough race today. They'll be starting out of position due to a penalty from earlier in the weekend.
It's unfortunate, but it happens to everyone at some point. You just have to accept your fate, knuckle down and get on with the business of making up that deficit during the Grand Prix. So they'll be pushing hard today. One to watch for sure.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and P2 goes to Daniel Ricciardo, a strong showing from the Australian. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Sainz, Valtteri Bottas and Hamilton, Perez, Leclerc, Vettel and Pierre Gasly, Fernando Alonso, Stroll, Kimi Raikkonen and Ocon, Russell, Matsushita, Nicholas Latifi and Antonio Giovinazzi. Tsunoda, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Mazepin, Benjamin and Mick Schumacher. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out. Then let's see who can prevail today.
Now that we've got some points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
Right, so here we are on the grid for the Italian Grand Prix. As you can see, we are starting in dead last here at the very back of the field after deciding to take a full engine penalty heading into this round. Our components were a little bit worn, and at a track like Monza, I thought it's probably best to take our penalty here. We're going to have to take one somewhere, so I figured we take it here where there's nice open straights. It's not super hard to overtake, and a new engine is very important around here as well. You want to have maximum power output around a track like Monza. The Temple of Speed is what it's called. So yeah, it's sort of in the name. You need to have a good engine. But as we go and sit on the grid, we've got the lights going up. We go to 5 red lights and we are away for the Italian Grand Prix. And it's actually a great start for us there. You can see ducking out of the way of Nikita Mazepin, who didn't have the greatest start there in the Haas. We're about equal with Schumacher on the left, but heading into turn 1, we're going to try and benefit from this sort of little open gap that we have, but we have to back out to make sure we don't make any contact with these cars around us. You can see trying to go around Tsunoda, getting a massive kick of oversteer on exit there on the power, but we do get the move done on Tsunoda, and that is ourselves up into P19. So we've already overtaken 3 cars after the first couple of corners. You can see Tsunoda trying to come back at us, but he's not quite able to make the move happen as we just follow Nicholas Latifi through the second chicane there. And yeah, just trying to make as many positions as we can. Tsunoda, though, again trying to have a look, and he's actually holding us up a little bit there as we try our best to make something happen. But now we're going to cut just to the front. Let's have a look at where everyone is. You can see Lando Norris with already over a second lead over his teammate Daniel Ricciardo, and then behind him he's got Verstappen, our teammate Sainz in P4 doing well for himself there. And we've got the 2 Mercedes of Bottas ahead of Hamilton, then the 2 new liveried Ferraris there of Leclerc and Vettel in P7 and P8. They're not where they want to be. The Tifosi might not be too happy about them being there, but yeah, they're certainly making comebacks in this career mode, getting themselves further up the field. You can see Actually, a couple cars coming in there. I believe that was Raikkonen and Matsushita, and we are right behind Latifi and Giovinazzi there. They're going side by side. We're going to get a sort of double toe off of the both of them there and make it 3 wide heading into turn 1. We're going to try and sweep around the outside for a double overtake on these cars, and we do get it done just there, just about getting through without ourselves making any contact. There might have been a bit of contact between Gio and Latifi, but you can see they're just making sure he didn't tag us on the rear there and get any little bit of floor damage or anything, but that's all fine. So we are all good to continue now. We're in P15. We're going to chase down George Russell, but you can see here heading on to lap 3. Verstappen is right on the back of Daniel Ricciardo, and he's going to go to the outside of turn 1 here. Is he going to be able to make the move happen? Ricciardo locks up a little bit and jumps over that inside curb, and that means Verstappen's a little bit ahead, but Ricciardo on the outside of turn 2 will have the better run into Curva Grande here, and it looks like he's going to have it just ahead as he's on the inside here. Actually, Verstappen sweeps around the outside. Maybe Verstappen using a little bit more overtake mode here. He's going to have the inside of the chicane. Who gets the move done? Verstappen does get ahead and into P2 there. So, sort of disrupting that McLaren 1-2 that we had in real life. Ricciardo is going to be wanting to chase down Verstappen and make that a possibility again, but we've also got our teammate Sainz sitting just in behind our fellow Aussie as well, so be interesting to see if Sainz maybe has the pace to make a move and get himself into the podium positions as they head down to the Ascari chicane. It doesn't look like he's close enough to make anything happen, so he's going to have to sit and wait behind for now, but you can see heading on to the end of lap 4, so pretty much just over a lap later, Ricciardo is on the back of Verstappen still, so DRS is enabled this time around. Ricciardo is going to have heaps of overspeed as they head down the main straight. He's going to duck to the outside, similar to what Verstappen did a couple of laps ago. Is he going to be able to make the move easier with DRS? Yes, he does. He's actually completely ahead by the time they're in the braking zone there, so Ricciardo pretty easily up into P2, and you can see cutting to us, we are going for a move very similar to Ricciardo on George Russell here, but Russell's actually able to keep it to the inside. We're going to go side by side through turn 1 and 2. Russell will have the better exit here, and he does not quite pull ahead. We are still going side by side around the outside of Curva Grande, using some overtake mode to keep alongside him, even though we're on the outside there. As we head into the chicane, we should be able to hopefully get the move done here. We do. Russell backs out of it, and that is us up into P14, getting a bit of a tank slapper on exit, but we do get the move done on the young Brit in the Williams there. Yeah, now we've got a pretty big gap to chase down to Ocon. You can see 3.1 seconds, so that'll be a lot of work for us to do, but that's what we're going to have to do. Now looking up the front again here on lap 6, it's Verstappen's turn to have the DRS and to try and make a move. He's going to go to the inside there. Ricciardo goes defensive, but Verstappen keeps it there, and he's going to go side by side through turn 1 and 2. Verstappen will have the better exit out of turn 2 as long as he can keep it alongside, and actually it's very easily done there on corner exit. He's already ahead of Ricciardo before they head into Curva Grande and back up into P2. You can see all this battling has allowed Lando to pull a 4-second gap on these guys. So Lando is absolutely running away with this race at the moment as these guys battle it out for P2. And at the moment, it's really just Ricciardo and Verstappen going for it. And Sainz, Bottas, Hamilton, Leclerc, Vettel, Perez, they're all just sort of sitting behind waiting for some sort of incident to happen. That's sort of just how the DRS train works in these sort of battles. You can see on lap 7, Ricciardo just once again with the DRS straight down the inside, and again he's ahead before getting into the braking zone. It seems like McLaren has a slightly better advantage down the straights, as you would expect with the McLaren having the Mercedes engine and the Red Bull having a Honda engine. But that sort of gets negated with the DRS when the Red Bull is behind. But having a look through the field actually here on lap number 9, Vettel goes for a move on his teammate Charles Leclerc. So these guys are battling for P7 and 8. They're going to go side by side through the newly named Alboreto curve down the main straight. Now they'll both have DRS here, so it's going to still be a straight fight. They're both going to be fighting for the the slipstream of Lewis Hamilton here. Who's going to get the move done? It looks like Vettel might have it done as they head into the chicane. They're actually going to go side by side. So the Tifosi getting a bit of a show here, the two Ferraris racing each other, but I'm sure they would have preferred to have them further up the field. But yeah, the Ferraris having a little bit of a scrap there on lap 9 and 10, and Vettel does get himself ahead of Charles Leclerc. On his return to Ferrari, he's showing Leclerc that he's still here to battle and to fight for position, which is good to see. Vettel sort of returning a bit of form after having his 1-year sabbatical at Aston Martin and coming back to Ferrari for this season. But we are now going to cut on to at the end of lap 10, and Lando Norris is going to come in for his one and only pit stop of the race. It's pretty early. Everyone else is meant to be sort of coming in a lap or 2 or 3 later, so it'll be interesting to see what sort of tyres he goes on. You can see Ricciardo and Verstappen continue on, so do both Mercedes cars of Bottas and Hamilton. Leclerc continues, so does Perez and Gasly. The only other main car of importance to pit is Sebastian Vettel and the other Ferrari, and both of these guys are going to be on the hard tyres, so be interesting to see in a couple laps time what everyone else is able to go on to. But is Norris going to get some nice clean air to maybe keep pulling away? He's got Gio and Latifi actually battling each other, and they do just get ahead of Lando, so this might actually cost him a fair bit of time if these guys continue to battle and he can't find a way through. So not exactly what Lando and McLaren would have wanted there, but that's what they ended up getting, and now Ricciardo, I imagine, is going to be really pushing so to Verstappen and Sainz and that to try and make as much time on Lando Norris as possible. You can see this lap time at the end of lap 11, it's Ricciardo and Verstappen coming in, so too does, I believe that's Lewis Hamilton and Pierre Gasly, as well as Charles Leclerc. Sainz and Bottas and Perez have continued on. You can see all these guys going on the medium, so just one lap pitting later, and all these guys are pitting onto the medium tyres, so yeah, that could be really interesting to see what the pace of these guys compares to the likes of Lando Norris and Sebastian Vettel. I imagine these guys will be quicker to begin with, but towards the end of the race we might see the hard tyres performing a bit better. You can see Lando's still got plenty of a gap to Ricciardo behind, almost 5 seconds still, so he didn't lose too much time to the guys behind, getting held up behind those two back markers, battling it out. You can see the order didn't change too much. Vettel is still ahead of Leclerc, but I imagine Leclerc will have the pace to overtake his teammate now that he is on the softer compound tyre. You can see we came in at the end of that lap as well on lap 11, and we are chasing down Fernando Alonso. The gap's 1.2 seconds now, so I have been slowly, steadily closing in on the cars ahead, but it has been a very, very long old race, a very lonely one for myself so far. That's why we haven't had too much of my point of view so far at this point, but yeah, just slowly trying to make up the positions and get ourselves possibly into a points paying position. You can see here at the end of lap 12 we've got Sainz, Bottas and Perez coming in, and I imagine Esteban Ocon will be coming in as well, and that'll sort of set the field to where everyone should be. I imagine these guys will be on the mediums as well. You can see there the Red Bull and the Mercedes team have the mediums out, and so too do our team have the mediums out for Carlos Sainz. There shouldn't be much of an order shuffle here, only these three or four guys coming into the pit lane, and that is all said and done. Now where's Sainz going to come out in comparison to the McLarens? There you can see that he's going to come out just behind Ricciardo and Verstappen, so he hasn't lost too much time. It looks like with that one lap undercut, those guys ahead have pulled maybe half a second to a second of a gap on Sainz there. And actually looking behind, Leclerc's gotten ahead of Vettel, and Vettel's actually going alongside Sergio Perez there. So Perez has lost a bunch of time. Maybe he broke a bit of his front wing, because he's nowhere near the likes of Bottas and Sainz now. So it looks like Sergio had a bit of a slow stop, and he's got himself caught up in the Ferrari battle here. But you can see we've now got ourselves up into P12, and we're not too far behind Fernando Alonso. We have successfully got ahead of Esteban Ocon now. We're now chasing down the other Alpine, sort of reminiscing of the early days of Season 1, sort of early to mid-season days of Season 1, where we were battling away with Alpine. You can see here on lap 13, we are in the DRS of Fernando Alonso down the main straight. This is for P11, so the final position to make up before we're then able to try going for points paying positions. Alonso goes right up to the white line on the inside, heading into turn 1, so we're going to go around the outside, force Alonso to sort of lock up the brakes and get on that inside curb, and we do get the move done on the Spaniard, the two-time world champion there in the Alpine. And now we have a pretty big gap. We've got 4 seconds to close up to Pierre Gasly, but just having a look at the order here, you can see onto lap 15, Lando Norris leads the way by 4 seconds ahead of Ricciardo, Verstappen and Sainz in this sort of three-way battle. And actually we're going to stick here as Verstappen goes for a move on Daniel Ricciardo into turn 1, and he does get it done before the braking zone there. So that's a pretty simple move for Max Verstappen to get up into P2 ahead of our fellow Aussie Ricciardo, and Sainz just sort of sitting behind. You can see we then got the two Mercedes of Bottas and Hamilton. And Hamilton is actually falling a bit behind his teammate there, so interesting to see. You can see Perez is stuck in a battle here with Charles Leclerc, so these guys battling it out for P7, 8 and 9. You can see Vettel's actually still staying just behind these guys, even though he's on the harder compound tyres, and actually that little bit of a battle compacted these guys for 7, 8, 9 and 10. So this is sort of the battle for the last 4 spots of the points paying positions. Then we've got ourselves 5 seconds behind and in P11 there, so interesting to see what happens here. Now Perez won't have DRS, so I'd imagine Leclerc is maybe going to have to have a look at Perez heading into the Ascari chicane. He's going to look to the inside, but he's going to have to back out of it into the braking zone. And Vettel with a massive lunge on his teammate there into the Ascari chicane. That's the old Vettel that we've been missing these last few seasons. What a move he's pulled on his teammate of all people as well to get himself up into P8, and he's going to try and chase down Sergio Perez now. Maybe the medium tyres already starting to wear out if you get into a bit of too much of a battle. So interesting to see Vettel able to make such a bold move there. But you can see looking up the front of the field, we've got Ricciardo now going for a move on Max Verstappen. Once again, these two having a massive scrap this entire race. By the looks of it, you can see just behind as well, Hamilton actually making a move on Bottas. So he's been able to get up on the back of his teammate once again, and Verstappen does successfully complete the move on his on Daniel Ricciardo, and looks like Bottas actually kept it ahead of Hamilton in the end there. Ricciardo not able to get ahead into the second chicane. So yeah, these guys really toughen it out over the course of this race, and Sainz is just sort of sitting behind, biding his time, maybe hoping these guys have a bit of an incident and take each other out. That would certainly help us in the constructors fight against McLaren and Red Bull, but obviously we want to see some real interesting battles as opposed to some massive crashes. Now down towards the Ascari chicane, is Ricciardo going to have a look to the inside? Yes, he is. Is it going to be similar to Leclerc? He's going to have to back out, and Sainz very similar to what Vettel did around the outside into the Ascari chicane. Massive move there from our teammate to get ahead of our fellow Aussie and into the podium positions. Is he going to be able to now challenge Max Verstappen for second place? That'll be really interesting to see if he's able to make something happen here, but we're going to have to cut a whole lap forward there. He's able to keep it ahead of Ricciardo. He's now got a bit of a gap behind, and he's completely focusing on Max Verstappen down the straight. He'll have DRS and Max won't. So as we head down, we'd expect Sainz to be able to go for a move on the Dutchman who won last time out at his home Grand Prix, so he'd be pretty on form at the moment. So Sainz around the outside of turn 1, and he's not quite able to make it happen. So Verstappen will have the outside of turn 2, and we know that gives you a really good run. So it's looking like Verstappen's going to be able to hold position here, although Sainz is keeping it alongside through Curva Grande. Are they going to be able to go side by side without any contact into the chicane here? It looks like it. Who's going to get the move done here? Sainz on board with him here. It looks like Verstappen is able to make the move stick there and keeps P2. But once again now, is Sainz able to make a move on Max Verstappen as they head down the main straight? He's a bit closer this time. Once again, he's going to go to the outside, so I don't know why Sainz isn't trying the inside line. That this didn't work for him last time. He is a bit further ahead there, but Verstappen just keeps his nose into turn 1, and that allows him to stay side by side for the exit on turn 2. So now they're going to go side by side once again, and I don't have a lot of hope here for Sainz being able to hold on to the chicane. We've seen that the outside line into this chicane is the more beneficial line to have, and you can see that's proven there with Verstappen easily able to stay ahead of Sainz, either the left and right hander, and as they head into the Lesmos, Sainz isn't really able to do much. Now as we head on to lap 19, actually on to lap 20 here, end of lap 19, Sainz lost a bit of time to Verstappen, and now Ricciardo going for a move on our teammate. He does have the move done into the, no, not quite into the braking zone, so they're going to go side by side, but Ricciardo will have the better line on exit of turn 2 here, and he does get the move done on our teammate. So Sainz, unfortunately, trying to battle for second place, and he ends up falling back to P4. And he's going to have to be careful. This field is all sort of bunched up together once again after sort of separating a bit earlier on in the race. So if you make one mistake here, you could lose a lot of position. As you can see, that's exactly what Verstappen does out of the Ascari chicane to Ricciardo, all over the back of the Dutchman, former teammates these two at Red Bull, and Ricciardo's going to be the inside of Alboreto Curve. As they head around the last corner and onto the main straight. They're going to go side by side here. Which one of these two guys gets DRS, that'll decide who gets the position. Ricciardo has the DRS, so he's going to pull ahead of the Dutchman into turn 1. You can see easily already starting to pull across in front of Max Verstappen's front wing there, and he does get the move done into P2. So a bit frustrating there, to be honest, as the team owner of our team, to see Ricciardo get that move done so easily, and Sainz had 2 attempts and wasn't quite able to pull it off. But on the lap 24 now, Verstappen is all over the back of Daniel Ricciardo, and he's once again to the inside of turn 1. Verstappen seems to like going to the inside there, while everyone else seems to like going to the outside. So interesting to see there, maybe just the way the drivers are coded and their aggression differences there. Seeing Verstappen go for some slightly different moves as they go side by side through Curva Grande there. Sainz is sitting right behind these guys once again, hoping for some sort of mistake or some sort of maybe a bit of contact to try and benefit. And you can see Verstappen gets a real bad run out of the chicane, and Sainz jumps on the opportunity and dives to the inside of the first Lesmos there, and they'll go side by side into the second of the two Lesmos, and they should both have DRS off of Ricciardo here, but Sainz is ahead of Max Verstappen and up into P3, so he's going to chase down our fellow Aussie here. And look at these guys all bunching up, trying to make moves on each other. There's Bottas trying to make a move on Verstappen, but he's not quite able to make it happen. Further back, Sergio Perez has been able to make a move on Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton dropping a bit down the field, and he's got the two Ferraris just behind him now, so it'll be interesting to see what these guys are able to do with all of this stuff happening now. Further behind, Sebastian Vettel actually going for a move around the outside of Alboreto on Lewis Hamilton there. These guys former rivals just a few years ago, fighting for the championship, and Vettel does get the move done on the Mercedes there. But here comes Max Verstappen on our teammate. Unfortunately, Ricciardo's been able to pull out of the DRS, and so Sainz can't really do anything and falls back into 4th place. Hamilton trying to make a move on the Ferraris, but that actually just forces Vettel to go for a dive on Sergio Perez, and he's actually got the move done. So Vettel on the hard tyres, doing very, very well there with only 3 laps to go on this Grand Prix. Maybe those hard tyres starting to come into their own and maybe starting to have a bit better performance than those mediums. You can see Perez trying to make a move on Vettel there, but he's not quite able to make it work. So Vettel up into P6, very good to see for him there. The German sort of doing Ferrari a little proud there, considering where their car currently sits in the pecking order. As we go on to lap 26, 2 laps to go in this Grand Prix, Carlos Sainz goes for a move on Max Verstappen. He's actually gone to the inside of turn 1 there, and he's actually easily ahead and back on the racing line into the braking zone of turn 1. So good to see Sainz getting up onto the podium position. Hopefully he can stay there for the rest of the race. Perez has got himself back ahead of Sebastian Vettel. Hopefully Vettel can sort of try and fight him a bit more and give us a bit more entertainment to see there between those guys. Ferrari will absolutely be wanting to get as good a result as possible here in the home Grand Prix, but cutting through Lando Norris here, the end of the final lap of the Grand Prix. Absolutely flawless race here from the young Brit. He's going to come around the final corner to win the Italian Grand Prix. It'll be his 2nd win in Formula 1, 2nd win of this season, and the 3rd or 4th driver to get consecutive wins so far in this season. So very good to see there for Lando. He's sort of been falling a bit behind his teammate in terms of race finishes at the moment, but you can see there Ricciardo 2nd. Sainz does hold on for P3. Verstappen, Bottas and Perez P4, 5 and 6. Vettel holds on for P7. 8th is Hamilton. Leclerc 9th. Gasly 10th. And we are going to finish 11th, just outside of the points. A little disappointing, to be honest.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
Here we are then, a thoroughly deserved win in Italy after another excellent Grand Prix. Talk to me, Ant. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
As the winners make their way up to the podium, one can only imagine the celebrations that will take place at McLaren tonight. Congratulations to everyone on the team, securing the win and proving they're a force to be reckoned with out on the track.
So here we are with the results of the Italian Grand Prix. Lando Norris, the championship leader, takes maximum points away from the weekend with a win and fastest lap, and it's a 1-2 for McLaren with Ricciardo finishing in P2, and our teammate Carlos Sainz rounds out the podium there, getting some nice points for the team in P3. Verstappen's 4th, and Bottas rounds out the top 5 there, finishing 5th. Ourselves, we finished down in P11, bit disappointing. Hopefully, I was really hoping to get some points, but either way, looking at the driver's standings, Lando leads away by 39 points now. He's absolutely destroying this championship, ahead of Max Verstappen in P2. Sainz is in P3 still, 40 points off, only 1 point off Verstappen, but it's really looking like in this later stage of the season that Lando is going to take this championship, which is awesome to see for the McLaren, but sort of sad to see the championship getting wrapped up this early on. Ourselves, we are down in P6, just got overtaken by Ricciardo there, who's moved himself up into P5, so yeah, very, I want to say tight when you ignore Lando. It's only really 21 points from 2nd down to 6th. Now, looking at the constructors, 49 points from ourselves behind McLaren there. And we've got about 15 points to Mercedes behind us, and then there's only a few points to Red Bull behind them. So very close from second, third, and fourth there. Again, McLaren with a massive gap ahead of the rest of the field in the constructors. So McLaren doing very, very well. It looks to be that this season is their season, but that is all for this episode. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this. We'll be in Suzuka for the next one, a track I quite enjoy. I'll see you all next time.